Hey everybody, welcome to Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited. I'm Kellen Nitro, and this is my take, Nitro's take, on WWE Payback 2020 from the WWE Thunderdome in Orlando, Florida, which is commonly referred to when there are games and other events happening in that space as the Amway Center in Orlando. And the date of that event is August 30th, 2020, which is a surprise because last weekend we had SummerSlam, and this now all of a sudden becomes kind of a little bit of a historic footnote because this is the first time ever that SummerSlam was ever in the same month as another pay-per-view. SummerSlam was the only one of the big four to never have shared a pay-per-view month with another WWE pay-per-view prior to this year. But I'm not sure if it's because of the coronavirus. I'm not sure if it's because of Vince and company having a very shiny brand new toy that they want to play with the new Thunderdome. But we get a pay-per-view 1 week right after the fact that we have the biggest party of the summer, SummerSlam. How was the show? Well, I took some notes. These are my first impressions of WWE Payback 2020, opinions and kind of a review all in one. That's what Nitro's Take is. And you guys can comment below and hit me up on social media at Twitter, because Twitter will play a key role at the end of this show because you guys will pick match of the night. As I'm recording it right now, the poll is still going, but you'll see the results at the end of the video, so stick around. Pre-show, we only have one match on the pre-show here, and it is the Riot Squad 2.0 taking on the Iconics. It's nice to see the Riot Squad back, potential build towards the tag titles beginning tonight. This was actually a fairly decent pre-show opener. Towards the end of the match, another weird deal where Peyton Royce hit Liv Morgan on the apron while Liv was stretching for the tag, and Kay convinces Liv that Ruby hit her instead. Ruby Doe eventually makes the tag, and the match continues. There was a double team attempt at a Magic Killer in which the Iconics dubbed their version of it, the Deja Vu, by the Iconics, but that only netted 2. But the finish, tandem double knees by Liv and a Riot kick on Billie Kay, 1-2 free, and Ruby Riot and the Riot Squad, Liv Morgan as well, get the W. The match itself, the runtime for the match was 9 minutes. Post-match, after the ad for the pay-per-view, because this was for the pre-show, so they were trying to sell people on buying a pay-per-view tonight, we head back to the panel, where the panel actually interviews the winners, which was a first. That was actually really cool. They played off of the little bit of dissension in amongst there, the uncertainty, but it looks like the Riot Squad, for what it's worth, is back together, unless they're going to look at reigniting Liv and Ruby again, and I'm not sure if that's necessarily needed right now in WWE and storylines, but it is getting into the wacky fall season, which is kind of the warm-up to Royal Rumble and WrestleMania season for WWE, and with this Thunderdome thing, they can basically... It's like business as usual, even though it really isn't, but it's virtually business as usual leading up to these shows now. It's just all in one location for them and everything, and they just pay the city of Orlando, different rates if they're doing different things in that building. So what I'm saying is all normal fall logic applies here with WWE. It's just a build now to the big show to fall, which will be Survivor Series over whatever weekend it is this year in November. And then after that, it'll be all guns forward to the Royal Rumble. The opening match of the main show is for the United States title. The champion, Apollo Crews, comes out, followed closely behind the challenger, Bobby Lashley, with the Hurt Business, and it is for the United States Championship. So this felt like a really good kind of middle-of-the-road Raw match, middle-of-the-program Raw match, actually. And the finish, there is a title change where Bobby Lashley taps out Apollo Crews. The Hurt Business being built strong. And the runtime for this one was 9 minutes and 30 seconds. Like I said, a fairly routine, solid encounter. A weird deal post-match with the still photographics as the Hurt Business celebrated. Yeah, so they took still frames and kind of made it look like it was like a prepackaged thing, with a photographer shooting it. Like, they cut away from it and they show the old effect of, okay, if you were editing a live event, sometimes they'll take a still frame of something and throw it in there and throw it in there and throw it in there. And with the camera sounds, make it look like it's sound like there's a photographer actually taking pictures, but it's after the fact. Well, this is during the fact, and it really kind of just threw everybody for a loop. It was like, well, what the hell is this muck? And this is just, I didn't like that at all. I thought it was very corny, very weird, but they did it. Guess that's one of the I guess the viewer amenities of the Thunderdome that they were talking about. Anyways, Crews lays out Lashley until he gets chased out of the ring and vows that he will be back for a rematch. So Apollo Crews versus the Hurt Business continues. Paul Heyman's backstage and gives an interview, says that Roman will sign a contract tonight for the main event. And so, as it stands at this point, it's just Strowman versus Fiend in this no-holds-barred match at the end of the night. It just seems like it's, it's just a rematch now at this point from SummerSlam. But technically, Roman isn't in the match. But he would be by the end of the card. I have another commercial, and then JBL visits Keith Lee backstage, says he will be a made man if he beats Randy Orton. And Keith Lee kind of scratches the proverbial chin and thinks about it. Biggie versus Sheamus is up next, and Biggie is in control until a big splash attempt on the outside of the apron. No dice there. A bro kick attempt thwarted, and Big E hits the big ending. This is the finish. 1, 2, 3, and Big E gets the W. That match itself ran 12 minutes and 20 seconds. Previous match for the United States title ran 9 minutes and 30 seconds between Lashley and Apollo Crews. So, this was the longer of the two matches to kind of kick off the show, and it's Big E starting his singles march towards singles gold of some sort, whether it be the Intercontinental title over on SmackDown, or maybe even a Universal title shot down the line. Who knows? It's one of those things. Maybe even with the draft coming up too. Maybe it's a draft to another brand, an entire different group of branding, I guess, or something. You could even see that. So. And post-match, E tells Graves to preach to the people that he's ready and he'll take on anybody. So there you go. Yeah, it's the beginning of the big push for Big E. Some new stars being made tonight, which is kind of pretty cool. This is kind of one of the underlying patterns of the entire show, is that guys who you haven't seen on pay-per-view in a while or are making their pay-per-view debuts would come up victorious. Much like in this upcoming contest, as we'll talk about here. Matt Riddle getting ready for King Corbin. No comment for the tweet Corbin sent out earlier. So in case you missed it, a tweet came out off of Baron Corbin's social media tonight about, it says it was out at 6:33 p.m. It depends, probably Eastern Standard Time, so probably about 4:33 our time out here. Anyway, the tweet read, "Tonight I proved that Matt Riddle is a failure in a WWE ring. By the way, he's already proven that he's a failure at home. Hashtag WWE Payback," which is the hashtag for the show, obviously. And I don't know, like, just coming right off of the whole standing out thing, or speaking out thing, I should say, and just the summer and the current social climate and everything. It seems very tone deaf to have a storyline based off of rape allegations. I'm just saying, just putting it out there, just taking the idea and just presenting it to everybody, that this is probably not the first road I would have went down creatively, and also probably not the best road you could have went down creatively with this. But they went there, and we had ourselves a wrestling exhibition of about 10 minutes and 55 seconds on the card tonight between King Corbin and Matt Riddle. And Riddle making his pay-per-view singles debut, and a hot start as Corbin smokes Riddle with a lariat. So Riddle here is making his pay-per-view singles debut. He, much like you'll see later on, Keith Lee, were involved in the 2020 Royal Rumble match. However, this is their pay-per-view singles one-on-one debut, as they were, I think, also involved, well, yeah, definitely in Keith Lee's case, and I think Riddle was involved on the NXT side at Survivor Series last year. One of the best Survivor Series ever put together, in my opinion, and probably one of the top Survivor Series of the 2010s. And both Keith Lee and Matt Riddle were huge ingredients to that event's success. Deep six attempts by Corbin, only for a 2 count. Riddle, though, hits the floating bro for a 3 count. A highly personal encounter and a match of the night contender. This match would have got my vote for match of the night, surprisingly. That was pay-per-view quality, and I think both guys brought it. Corbin kind of looked like the old Corbin of old, and I'm not talking about the guy from Raw, a year or two ago or so. I'm thinking the big NXT heel from 2015, 2016 in this match a little bit. It looks like he's got a little bit of his swagger back, which is good to see. Again, 10 minutes and 55 seconds. Some would argue that Corbin never really lost his swagger, and he's so strong on the mic with his promos and that stuff that, it's like that. If you can take away the the controversy of a tweet building up an event and going there and that stuff, just that kind of puts a overpowering shadow over top of everything. But yeah, so comment below whether you think that was fair game or not. But I'm getting a kind of a sick taste in my mouth thinking that it wasn't. So post-match, Riddle is interviewed in the back, but Corbin basically saying it's not over in an attack. So we will have a rematch with these folks later on down the line, maybe on SmackDown this week. We'll have to wait and see. The WWE Women's Tag Team titles were up on the line next as the Golden Role Models of Bayley and Sasha Banks take on the Oddball Challengers. The two people that were matched together, kind of the lethal lottery style challengers of Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. Women who were actually feuding with each other going into this pay-per-view. Again, oddball challengers versus longtime champs. Usually in this scenario, wrestling tropes, you get where I'm going. And guess what? The oddball challengers were working well as a team. It was sure awkward, though, watching two heels in this match fire up after the uber heel tactics of Bayley and Banks. Watching Jax and Baszler work baby faces is kind of strange. I hope that's adjusted, or this might be a short title reign. We'll have to wait and see. Baszler hooks Banks into a Muda lock and Bayley into the Karafuda clutch. Okay, so this is the finish. This was wild. Again, Baszler hooks Banks into a Muda lock and then Bayley in the Karafuda clutch. This is the same time that this is happening. Using Sasha's arm, she cinches in a double submission, and we have new champs at the, what's the runtime here? 10 minutes and 20 seconds mark. We have new WWE Tag Team Champions on the women's side, and it is Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Wild, right? And it's just like, that's a little bit of a jaw dropper. The finish was awesome. The match itself was kind of fair to Midland, I thought, at points, but the finish was incredible. That was a great way to end that match. That was, just utilizing Baszler's athleticism and her submission knowledge to do that. I didn't think he could do it, and she's doing it. So, what an athlete. Shayna Baszler turning some heads tonight, for sure. Another athlete who's been turning some heads, Keith Lee, the limitless one, taking on Randy Orton. Lee making his pay-per-view singles debut in this one, and I am loving the chops. Lee falls Orton with the Grizzly Magnum, which is the big, huge overhand bear paw almost. Really old school heavyweight pacing here. This felt like watching a match from 1988 or 1989, and I loved every second of it. It was great. Finish of the match, Orton goes for the RKO, but Lee catches him and hits the Spirit Bomb for free. Gets a 1-2-3 count, and that's it. That's the upset. The big upset. Maybe the big upset of the year. A unstoppable Randy Orton, a guy who's been just incredible on these pay-per-views and on these special events and that stuff, and they've built him up to be just this legend killer once again. walking out and losing in 6 minutes and 40 seconds clean to Keith Lee. Yeah, that'll launch you, and that was incredible. That was easily a jaw dropper. I'm trying hard to figure out what the bigger jaw dropper was tonight, between Lee winning in 6 minutes and 40 seconds or Baszler getting a double submission out of Banks and Bayley for the women's tag team titles. And I think that Lee's clean victory over Orton, and then the lack of anything afterwards, like an attack from Orton or whatever, is the big bit of it. That is just incredible. That's a huge launch for Lee after the year that Orton has had. And I don't think this hurts Orton in any way. I think, if anything, this gives Orton a kind of a new rival to work with during the fall here. And I think there'll be a rematch probably at Night of Champions coming up between the two of them, and or even on Raw. So it depends on how long they want to shelve Drew for whatever they want to do. But yeah, this was a head turner for sure. Paul Heyman again walking around in the back, but then guarantees in another interview that Roman is here and will take part in the triple threat later tonight. Well, good, he's booked. We have the Mysterios. I've deemed to call, just for my own note-taking ability, Los Mysterios taking on Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. Deeply personal feud that has developed during the summer. Yes, it's one of the few programs WWE has developed that's actually been well developed and has been, there's no half-baked to this at all or anything. There's been some hokiness behind it with the fake eyes and that stuff, but you take that stuff out and you actually have a very entertaining feud between the four individuals here. Dom Mysterio in pay-per-view match number 2 and his third overall match, because he was in the main event on Monday Night Raw as well for his first 3 WWE matches on the main roster. Kind of getting vibes in this match back to a classic match, and you guys can write in the comments below if you got those vibes or not. I'm talking about the match at the WWF Royal Rumble back in 1991. This was an undercard match on the card, but it was Dusty and Dustin Rhodes taking on the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and Virgil. And this was basically $1 Million Man and Virgil win that match, but it basically was the beginning of the split for Virgil to be a single superstar and him officially kind of leaving the $1 Million Man, as after the match Virgil basically punches out the $1 Million Man, and it's a decent match. Go check it out if you haven't had a chance to see it or haven't watched it in some time. It's a classic. But yeah, it's getting those vibes, just kind of watching this, and I'm like, I wonder if on the heel side with Murphy and Rollins, there might be something happening there. Not so much on the face side, but I think on the heel side. But there was an amazing chain wrestling sequence between Rollins and Rey Mysterio in this thing. Yeah, probably towards either midway or towards the end of it, just an incredible, where both guys could just show what they could do in the ring. And it was New Japan levels of good. It was just an eye popper. It was really good. Murphy catches Rollins on the buckle bomb head kick tandem. Yes, and so there it was. There was a catalyst for the dissension in amongst Rollins' ranks. So Murphy instructed to kick the head of Rey Mysterio as Rollins delivers the buckle bomb for a tandem move. And the move starts, but all of a sudden Rey flips out of it and Hurricane Rana, or head scissors, Rollins into the turnbuckle, and at the same time Murphy comes in with the boot and smushes his head. And automatically then Murphy tries to jump in the ring and try to cover up his mistakes, and as we all know, if you try to cover up your mistakes in public, bad things typically happen to the mistake maker, and that's what happened here. Dom hits the 619 and the frog splash on Murphy for the 1-2-3. Is there a massive rift now between Rollins and Murphy, and announced for Raw tomorrow night? So this storyline still remains red hot, and we might see more of this tomorrow. Announced for Raw, Seth Rollins, Rey Mysterio 1-on-1. And no doubt there will be fallout of this. This might be the start of Murphy being let out, or maybe excommunicated out of Rollins' good graces here. we'll have to wait and see. September 27th is announced that WWE Clash of the Champions is next. Yay, it's not next weekend, but there is a pay-per-view next weekend, so we'll be back here over the Labor Day weekend. As soon as AEW All Out is off the air, I will bring you my opinions and first impressions of that card. That should be a ton of fun to watch. But we have a main event to take a look at here, and the show just zips right along, and we get into the main event of the Universal Champion Roman Reigns versus The Fiend versus Braun Strowman, but it starts out being The Fiend versus Braun Strowman in a no-holds-barred match. Fiend's entrance into the Thunderdome is cool, but the match starts hot as Strowman jumps the barrier and jumps The Fiend during the entrance. A Sister Abigail attempt by The Fiend only lands 2, and all this before Reigns even enters the ring. The Fiend brings back out the oversized mallet. Yes, remember that from, I think it was Hell in a Cell last year, and a few other pay-per-views. The big oversized mallet that kind of squashed Rambling Rabbit in that one Firefly Funhouse back in the day. It allows Strowman to get back up, though. Fiend does end up using the mallet on Strowman, though, and Strowman and Fiend battle to the edge of the stage and throw each other off of it into tables. They then fight back into the ring. Strowman gets perches himself for a high spot up on top of the ropes, but the Fiend catches him, and a superplex and exploding ring gimmick. Yes, they brought back the Brock Lesnar Big Show superplex spot that breaks the ring. That has been done a few number of times in the past. I think Lesnar and Show did it again recently. I think that it's always done with super heavyweights. So it's a super heavyweight spot where one super heavyweight's crotched up on top of the ropes. The other guy comes and gives a superplex, carries him over, and as it comes down, there's a gimmick that kind of misshapes the ring or whatever underneath it, and as they hit, the ring kind of implodes, and the ref takes a bump outside of the ring. So it looks cool as hell on camera. WWE doesn't often use this, but they are the only promotion that I know that does do this. All of the Japanese promotions have a tendency to throw like dynamite and fire in there. Not sure if that was necessary here. We didn't see that. But that's how that basically works. And but it was kind of different this way and kind of cool because they did it, and usually it leads to an end of the match, but it's no holds barred here, so there was no end. This was just like, okay, get another referee down here to count a winner, right? It was then that Roman Reigns' music hits, and at the top of the stage, he signs the contract. He's ready to go. Paul Heyman points Roman towards the ring. Roman heads towards the ring, and we finally get a triple threat. And after 2 near-fall pin attempts off of that, Roman's kind of freaked out. Reigns then goes whacking with the chair. Yeah, he just starts wearing both the Fiend and Strowman out with the chair. The Fiend knocks Reigns out of the ring, though, by using the mandible claw, but at the same time, the Fiend himself kind of flops over on the outside, as if that move took everything out of him. A big spear to Braun Strowman once Reigns re-enters the ring, and a 1-2-3. Reigns pins Strowman, and the pay-per-view goes to dark at 2 hours and 31 minutes with a brand new Universal Champion. It is the returning Roman Reigns 1 week in, and he is Universal Champion again. However, is he a heel? Is he not a heel? Is he a tweener? Remains to be seen. However, my final grade for the show, I thought it was very run-of-the-mill at times, but it did have its jaw-dropping moments, and so the jaw-dropping moments will lead me to give this card a 7.5 out of 10. I think that it's the quickness of it. It's only about 2 hours and 31 minutes, so it's a definite easy watch. And if you watch the pre-show match, you get the classic WWE runtime at like 2:45 or so, or 2:40 for a pay-per-view, which what all of them used to be. So you get that. Like I said, you get the shocking finishes of Baszler doing a double submission for the tag titles. You get Keith Lee's upset over Randy Orton, which is really cool, and I'll probably be on his DVD set one day. And you get the the shocking finish. We'll put it up there. The shocking finish of Reigns being the Universal Champion, which I don't think a lot of people had predicted going into SummerSlam, last weekend. So over the course of 2 weeks, they put together a decent pay-per-view, and this is where it kind of worked for them a little bit. However, I still question why you'd put 2 shows on back-to-back weekends like that, especially after a major show. I think it sets a dangerous precedent for WrestleMania for next year, because they've seen this working here, and it might be, we'll do Mania, and then a week after we'll do maybe Payback after Mania or something, which could be after everybody's all wrestled out or burnt out after the WrestleMania weekend. Having a pay-per-view the week after is it's hard to digest. It's hard to go to a live wrestling card or watch one on TV, even after getting off of WrestleMania weekend or coming back from it, if they allow people back in at that point or whatever. Trust me, it's tough. Anyways, as I mentioned, we'll talk to you next weekend. All Out is coming up on the channel. There'll be a Nitro Steak for that, and a few other surprises sprinkled out throughout the week. I tried to get to some stuff last week, just didn't get to it, so it'll be this week what was supposed to be last week. All right, folks, later days. Don't know what to do with my hands, so happy wrestling watching. I'm Kellen Nitro, as the hands go all over the place. See ya. Tomahawk chop, I guess. I don't know. And later days on Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited. All right. Stay safe, folks.